Hi, I'm Carcino.
Oh, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
No one knows Carcino and none of these.
There's so much going on in the world, and I'm just giving my 2 cents on it. Go in and do a raid at someone's house, but you don't have an arrest warrant for them. Man, let it rain, let it rain, let it rain. Yes, sir. It's your boy Carcino here, still in Sith mode. Let's get it in. As you can see right now, is ridiculous. This whole Diddy case has been a dog and pony show that has gotten everyone nowhere fast. If you listen to the evidence and listen to what they have, yes, I'm quite aware Kendrick Lamar has dropped an album. I've listened to it once. I'm listening to it again. I like to listen, and when you get an album, you got to stay with it. I don't want to just be running outside, as you see a lot of people do. They run right out. They ain't even finish an album. They hear one song and they already online. So I've never been that person, so I'm not going to be that person today. Now, getting back to this trial, getting back to what this really details. What you're looking at is a situation that doesn't make a lot of sense to the average human being. They're looking at a trial date where family members are going to go in for the hearing for the Sean Diddy Combs as he's going in front of the judge yet again for a case for a bond hearing. They did not send out notifications for this video. They've been doing that a lot lately, sabotaging everything that we do, whether it's live stream, uploads, what have you. But the job still must get done. Now, let's take this into consideration. Let's say Diddy didn't know what was going on, or they didn't have a clue of what they were going to do next, right? Let's say there was no plan put into place. If someone's calling me now, I have to call them back. I'm not downstairs. Now, going into this scenario, he was about to get bail. This thing was going a lot of different directions, but it was looking on the outskirts of Diddy getting bail because they have no reason not to give this man bail. When you just gave a guy a $10 million bail who got more charges than Diddy. He's got way worse charges than Diddy. And he was out in about 45 minutes with bail. And he got to go to his house. No questions asked. That Abercrombie and Fitch dude, he ain't even in the newspaper every day. But Diddy, he's in the papers every single day. He's on the Post. He's on the Times. He's a menace. And he's been locked up for like, what, 3 months? Mm-hmm. Yes, the judge ruled out Florida, so he would have to stay in New York, which is fine by them until the trial. But they, I don't know why he can't go to Florida. Based on the conditions that you just let another man out on a $10 million bond, and this guy got more restrictions than he do in jail on his bond release, the bid that he's putting in. The Combs family arrives. His Diddy mom is being helped out. People are headed into the courtroom. Yes, they wanted to go to the house in Miami, but the overall thing is to get him out of jail. So being out of jail, that works even better, just as long as he's out of jail. They already got a place in New York. He can stay and get residence. Now, Inner City Press was covering this whole event. As you guys can see right now, the Inner City Press was covering this. Now, what I'm going to do is zoom in for you guys so you can get a full layout as to what was going on. Okay, you should be able to see it now a little clearer. Yep. Okay, here we go. Now, here it is. In the courtroom, Tony Rico has come back to the gallery with Diddy supporters, reading from a binder, 4 prosecutors on the drum roll. Sean Combs is brought in wearing MDC jail uniform, makes a point of hugging his lawyer. Then he sits with Rico while waiting for the judge to come in, noting that Diddy and his lawyers are sitting at the middle of 3 tables. So the 2 U.S. Marshals, rather than directly behind the defendant, are usually the case, are on the side. All rise. Lawyer Rico, the family of Mr. Sean Love Combs are here. They traveled a long way. Judge Subramanian says, "Thank you for being here, Mr. Angelo. Tell me about these legal pads." Then Diddy's lawyer comes in and said, "The first time I saw them was Tuesday." Combs' lawyer again said, "As we sit here today, I'm not sure when legal was written on any of them. I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. Different members of the defense team was telling him to write legal on his pads. There is a photo of a pad without legal on it." So Diddy lawyer also said, so it's clear that on November the 1st, the sweep, they did not all say legal. The judge Samaritan said, "The pad you handed up to me, did it say legal on it on November the 1st? I'm not sure." The judge said, "Moving forward, make sure representations are true." Mr. Solid, what's the status of Mr. Combs' laptop? So the AUSA, Christine Salvik, comes in and says the laptop for him to review the discovery at the MDC. The idea is to preload the information he is allowed to have at the MDC on the laptop. There's a protective order. So the judge said, on the bail application, I don't have to deal with the Bustanati case. The defense is saying that there is extensive conditions proposed, including a 24/7 security. What about the Fox case? So, of course, the government says there's no RICO charge in that case. Judge said, agreed. But I want you to address this. There'll be some level of trust will follow him here. He will not. He cannot be trusted. Consider his conduct in custody after the two judges' findings. The government says his attorneys are enabling his flouting of his BOP's rules, considered the labeling of the pads after the fact. Even family members, Judge. What's your response if Mr. Combs says, even if they don't trust me, there'll be 24/7 security? So she's already putting that out there to the public. Like, look, 24/7 security, right? He said, if he can't comply in a custodial setting, he will not comply if released. What type of security firm? They suggested a co-conspirator, one whose phone was taken only the day before. The second suggestion was a defense investigator in this case. That investigator has been out of contacting the witnesses. Initially, they worked for him. This would be a defendant buying his way out, Judge. You've conducted and he said, you've conceded that the Bastinati bar does not apply here. You cited his wealth to release him. So can he use it? Right away, we're not seeking his continued detention based on his wealth, but rather danger, risk of flight, and obstruction. Is obstruction your main argument? Is what the judge is asking. Is the government danger to others? So not flight of risk. We still rely on that too. Well, he's asking you, be direct. This is how you know they're not speaking directly. It's just crazy. Now it flips over again. Well, we still rely on that too. What part? Tell me about obstruction, the judge says. The government goes, he's continuing violation of rules. Judge, like, if he's running a PR campaign, obstruction, like, what? Why are you not telling me what he's doing? The lawyer's like, that's not what we have here. Rather, it's a concerted effort to impact the integrity of the proceedings. He says, I want to reach the jurors. I need only one, Judge. He's not permitted to engage in any conduct to impact the jury pool. His intent, it's obstructive conduct. He's violating the so-called gag order. He's the one who asked for that order. How is he violating it? And he hadn't said a damn thing. Oh my God, these people have been violating the gag order since they're the reason for it, leaking all this information to the courts. Then they said the court entered the order on October the 25th, and he started his campaign on October 27th. He couldn't comply for 2 days. The judge said, what about Jeffrey Crombie case, where the government agreed on a release of a $10 million bond, right? The Abercrombie and Fitch case. We did a letter. That's what the government said. We did a letter. Let me see what this letter is about. Okay. Yeah, they did a letter here about it, talking about their thing here. Jeffrey and his co-defendants operated in an international ring that was going on. And this was sent by the Justice Department over to the judge. Jeffries allegedly paid for dozens of men to travel with him from the United States and his company, surveying the witnesses and threatening to expose their misconduct. Following his arrest, the government consented that Jeffrey release on a strict bail condition, including a secured $10 million bond and home detention motion that situated to Jeffries and should similarly be released. But beyond superficial similarities, the high profile position of the defendants in the crimes charges, the cases are materialistically different. As to multiple factors of the court must consider that the Bail Reform Act. So, first, the nature and circumstances of the offenses are different. While the Jeffrey case, which spans from 2008 to 2015, alleges the use of force, fraud, and coercion to engage men in non-consensual sex, there are no allegations that Jeffrey committed non-trafficking related violent acts or he used firearms during the charged period. The indication against Combs alleges both. With respect to the charges of offenses, Jeffrey does not include a racketeering offense. By contrast, Combs is charged with leading a racketeering enterprise that engaged in X, Y, and Z. So, because they let this guy get away with a non-racketeering charge, and they let this guy escape and let him get off, they feel that there's no need for them to have to show, prove, or do anything of the sort. Yes, it's going to get worse. I'm sorry. It has to get worse before it gets better. And here it gets worse. They said, the government said, I think a better comparison is the two prior denials of bail here, Judge. Judge said, what about his claim the government spliced the video? He apologized. That's the point. That's so they want to use his apology video. Oh my God. This has got to be this government. I don't want to go to New York ever. Y'all can have New York. He apologized. That's the point. The judge is like, why did you use the splice video and not the original? It was public. Oh. The cell phone footage was grand jury material, and we didn't want the defendant to be able to retaliate against the grand jury witness. We did add blurring of the victim's face. In 2016, the defendant bribed hotel securities $100,000 to make it go away. The government comes in and says, again, it doesn't matter if he threw a vase or the content of a vase. He admitted to it and he apologized for it. This took place in the middle of a freak off. This is what she's saying. The U.S. has evidence a male commercial sex worker was in the hotel room at the time. This is devastating evidence for the trial. It shows why he cannot be released on bail. He is violent and he has committed to covering up his crimes. The evidence against him continues to mount. We've learned of punching and kicking employees and partners. Oh, Jesus Christ. The judge is like, Mr. Acfinio, Diddy's lawyer, and he's like, I'm going to have to. He's like, and his Diddy's lawyer come up saying he's going to have Ms. Shapiro lead us off. And Alexandria came up from the defense team and says he was not dragging her back to a freak off. The judge said there was dragging. Shapiro said, I don't mean to say that. The judge like there was kicking. He has apologized for that. And right away, Judge Samaritan says, what about the 2018 text messages with victim one about violence? Combs' lawyer said, we have gathered more information about victim one, even yesterday. I don't want to quote it because it's under seal and should be, but it was consensual. Read this again. Diddy's lawyer said we gathered more information about victim one, who we all believe is Cassie, even yesterday. I don't want to quote because it's all under seal. It was consensual. Consensual. The same thing Cino been saying since day goddamn one. A freak off isn't a crime. Now, here we go. The judge says, I don't want to quote from them, but you know the ones I mean. And he said, we are proposing an independent security firm. There has been mutual regrettable physical conduct going both ways. There was a violence by this other person and Mr. Combs, by Mr. Combs allegedly. And that's what he came in and said. So Diddy's lawyer said in the Lafayette case in 2000, the defendant told someone to lie by phone from the MCC in the Gotti case in 1996. The head of the Gambino crime mob, the witness received a kick in the ass the government does not have there. So Shapiro comes back and said, we cited the Trump case. Defendants have greater rights to speak than their lawyers. An Instagram post as well. I don't know if I can. His communications from the MDC, Shapiro says, she comes in and says, he says the prosecution is motivated by racism. So now Shapiro comes in and says, this is covered by the First Amendment. Messages they point to are not instructed to lie. There's a barrage of negative media coverage. He has a right to respond to that. The judge is like, why not through counsel? Shapiro said, we're happy to do that. And then here comes Diddy's lawyers. But they say, but we're lawyers. It's not really what we do. Some of these recordings show that he's telling people, just tell the truth. Talk with my lawyer. Judge, victim 3, you're saying the communications are fine? Shapiro, yes. Same on witness 1 and 2. What about the communications that are missing? Witness 1 reached out to Mr. Combs' counsel and asked us for a lawyer. We didn't do anything along those lines because it was an odd request. I don't know the factual answer. Judge, how do you know? And the judge said, how did you not know? He says, there was a message from Mr. Combs to witness 1. I'd like to give it to you under seal. USAA Foster may know it does not give rise to a level of obstruction. I do not have the actual message. Combs' lawyer said, my client obeys me. That's what the other lawyer said, Garagos. Diddy got a whole gang of lawyers ganging up on him. For example, on victim 3, he stopped using ASAP or other phone lines. The message with witness one were pre-arrest. He obeys us. He came to New York in the BOP. When I tell him not to do something, he doesn't. Combs' lawyer Shapiro says, I submit that the charges in the Jeffrey Abercrombie case are worse than here. They allege an international sex trafficking business. They were R-worded, forced to engage in backdoor sex, and everything else. And the lawyer Shapiro comes in and says, while in Jeffrey's case, one defendant is 80, the other one is 71. Mr. Combs is 55. I hate to say it, but that's not that young. The U.S. suggests he won't follow conditions. Shapiro, these conditions are more restrictive than in prison. And the judge said, where is his home he'll be in if he was released? And the judge says, Diddy's other lawyer says, I don't want to give that address. It's on Star Island. There's a causeway, there's a dock, but there will be no boat. The judge said, that's not going to work. Where in New York? And they said, give me a moment. And they said, there's an apartment on the Upper East Side. We have one available, 3 bedrooms. And the judge said, where are the 24/7 security going to be? And then they said, would you like to speak to him or me? It's Patriot Security. They merged with Crisis 24. There'll be 2 security guards in the apartment and 1 downstairs. So it's a total of 3. No access to phones or the internet except for calls with counsel arranged by security personnel. This is more restrictive than in the MDC. Facts. That is more restriction Diddy has ever gotten in anything he's ever done. So this ain't me giving you opinion. You're hearing the actual dialogue from what transpired in the courtroom. Once again, shouts out to the Inner City Press. Don't forget to follow them. If you got Twitter, support them. They do a lot of good work. Mr. Combs would avoid all contact with anyone who may be a witness. I think he has a right to do that, but I want to make it as easy for the court as possible. We're going to investigate thoroughly before May 5th trial. He has a right to assist. The judge says the government is saying Mr. Combs would be paying these people if it came down to trust. Then Diddy's lawyer said it's a different relationship. These are professionals that are only going to be in his life for 8 months. It's a high-profile case. And then Diddy's lawyer said he's been in jail for 66 days without a laptop. He only gets one a few hours. What is unique here is he has to wait 9 weeks to get a laptop into MDC. The judge said the solution is for you to come to me. We can call these hearings which get things done. And the lawyer says, I have a whole presentation ready about the tape, but if you got enough, I can save everyone 15 minutes. The judge says, I have reviewed it. Who is here from pretrial services? Pretrial services, we maintain conditions insufficient. The judge says, have there been any other cases with private guards? Pretrial, not that I'm aware. And they said, no, there was an uncorruption case and this, and he got massaged with door closed while confined, whatever. So the government pops in and says, consider witness one, a participant in multiple freak-offs. Defendant continued to contact witness one after counsel was retained. The Instagram post was planned planned for a week using Contact Me ASAP and other inmates' codes. His family member said the lawyer said not to do it, and the defendant responds, "I don't care, it's my birthday." Judge Mrs. Shapiro said sharing codes is common, and the conduct was, that's what, yeah. The judge, Mrs. Shapiro, said sharing codes is common, and the conduct was covered by the First Amendment. And here comes the lawyer saying Bob Handbooks prohibits this. And then here comes the government again. Defendant has used at least 8 inmates' codes. He bought them. The judge says, they say Contact Me ASAP operates through TruSalink, a trust fund limited inmate computer system. And the government said it's not permitted. And the Jeffries one is detained. And judge said a foreign national. Yeah, see, Jeffries is in a foreign national. So this trust fund limited inmate computer system is what it operates through. So that makes it pretty much what he's doing legal. Like, you can give your codes to somebody. It's not illegal to do that. So the government came in with some other stuff, like there's more similarities to this case where detention was ordered. R. Kelly, Keith Raynard, Larry Ray, the Book of Ray. So the judge said, I suggest both parties put in letter by Monday at noon about what type of communications Mr. Combs may engage in. Monday at noon, I see people from the 2D row standing up. Combs' lawyer, Tony Rico, we had to email for a week to get him a file folder. And then Combs' lawyer again said his adult children are willing to obey. He's not a lawless person. We spent hours at the NDC. Mr. Combs was writing down what I said. He's not out of control. DOJ is responsible for the MDC. Those calls from me all the time, and I hang up. So he said he's accused. He has access to cell phones in the MDC, but not under our conditions. He fights, he kicks, he makes phone calls. This can be addressed. Thank you. Judge, we're going to get to a decision out prompt next week. So that's where we are, baby. So they're going to make a decision next week. So next Tuesday, Monday, he wants to know what they're going to be, what the communications is going to be. And by Tuesday, he's going to make his decision. So yes, I will be reviewing Kendrick's album. I'm going to do a short one on YouTube and another one on my Patreon. So if you're part of the Carcino for Life Patreon, then you're gonna understand. We're gonna deal with the Jonathan Major thing on One Crack News. But thank you, Black Sigma and Jeff. I appreciate y'all super chatting. Everybody else, you can super chat or you can donate to the Cash App, which is Carcino for Life. It's a lot of news flying around today, so they're keeping your boy quite busy. Now, where did that leave us today? Now that we know all this. In my opinion, Diddy is getting out of jail, and he will be on bail in New York City in that apartment, and they're going to have it where now he can go ahead, talk to his legal team, and be able to prepare for trial. The U.S. government has nothing, and they are spiraling. They have nothing. And they have the proof, the government, they have the proof that a lot of this stuff is consensual. They're going to try to get Diddy to commit to saying he's guilty on one thing and one thing only, and they're going to try to run with that. And this whole thing has been just one big dog pile of conspiracy and nonsense. So everybody's pondering and going over the situations, and is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Oh, it's happening. Diddy is coming home. Well, he's going to be in New York. But this case, y'all going to see how wrong y'all actually was in this entire case. Y'all really going to see how wrong y'all was in this entire case.
To have you gentlemen. So let me tell you about what is happening right now. So Sean Combs' attorney, Alexandra Shapiro, is having a back and forth with Judge Subramanian. I'm going to read everybody the back and forth. So first, defense attorney Shapiro says, we cited the Trump case. Defendants have greater rights to speak than their lawyers. An Instagram post, as well as I don't know if I can. And then the judge says his communications from the MDC, the Metropolitan Detention Center. Shapiro says he says the prosecution is motivated by racism. So let me just be clear about this. A, there's a discussion about what was he saying, maybe on telephone calls to other people while he's been locked up at the MDC. The other question is, was he orchestrating a social media campaign using his family to post things online that might potentially influence a jury? So keeping that in mind. Ms. Shapiro, again, Sean Combs' lawyer, says, this is covered by the First Amendment. Messages they point to are not instructions to lie. There is a barrage of negative media coverage. He has a right to respond to that. The judge asks, why not through counsel? Shapiro says, we're happy to do that. Shapiro says, but we're lawyers. It's not really what we do. Some of these recordings shows that he's telling people, just tell the truth, talk with my lawyer. And then the judge says, victim 3, you're saying the communications are fine? And Shapiro says, yes, same on witness 1 and witness 2. The judge says, what about the communications that are missing? Agnifilo, this is Mark Agnifilo, this is Sean Combs' other lawyer, says, witness 1 reached out to Mr. Combs' counsel and asked us for a lawyer. We didn't do anything along those lines because it was an odd request. I don't know the factual answer. The judge responded, how do you know not know? How do you know no? Or how do you not know maybe? Oh, it's how did you not know? That's exactly. How did you not know? And Sean Combs' other lawyer, Kenny Garrigo, says, there was a message from Mr. Combs to witness 1. I'll like to give it to you under seal. Prosecutor Foster may know it does not give rise to the level of obstruction. I do not have the actual message. Brian, I'll start with you. A lot of back and forth here. It's about whether or not his communications are a form of obstruction. It's about whether or not him even initiating a social media campaign would be to improperly influence a jury. This all goes to the issue, is he a danger on the outside? Is he flouting the rules inside? He cannot be released outside. What are you taking away from this back and forth I went through?
Well, the fact that they're debating it is healthy for him. It sounds like our judge here is trying to give a real fair analysis to all this. And this is a collision between First Amendment rights, as far as I'm concerned, and some of the requirements under bail, if there should be bail given. You're not supposed to have contact with witnesses. You're certainly not supposed to intimidate witnesses, but you're also able to defend yourself and marshal a defense and speak your mind as a defendant. And judges always have a very difficult time trying to balance those two constitutional issues. And I think this judge is struggling with it because this is a man who's on trial for his life. His liberty's been taken away from him, and he's fighting back. And that would be something that one would expect of someone who's been accused of heinous crimes. So I think that today is probably, as I think you've described it, really the first opportunity for there to be a healthy debate on why he should be released.
And Bradford, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to that as well. I do want to let you know there was another update where Ms. Garagos, who again is one of Sean Combs' attorneys, says, my client obeys me. For example, on victim 3, he stopped using ASAP and other phone lines. The messages with witness 1 were pre-arrest. He obeys us. He came to New York. In the Bureau of Prisons, when I tell him not to do something, he does it. So in other words, if you have concerns about him flouting the rules, he will listen to us. We'll tell him what to do. What do you think?
I think that's an argument that I've often made, and I think a lot of defense attorneys make in terms of that our clients will listen to us if we tell them what to do and what not to do. And in certain circumstances, you have clients that have not been in a situation like this before, where they're in custody, where they are getting a barrage of allegations against them. Some may have some basis of truth and some may not. And you've seen that over and over again in this case. There have been reports of different things that went on and different allegations against Sean Combs that they have then found out, oh, these are just rumors and they're not true. I think that it's not a bad thing when a PR company or even when a defendant takes it on himself to have family members talk about the good thing that he's done in the past and the charitable things that they've done in the past. When you have a case like this, where they are just every day, there's something that is coming out, something that is leaked by either the government or a party that's involved or someone that's interested in the case. where it is affecting, that could have affected a jury. I think that, you know, that release of that Cassie tape, and I keep going back to that release of that Cassie tape, I think the tape was released because they knew that she was going to be somewhat blamed for the behavior that happened, that they would know that she would participate in these different things with different individuals, and they wanted to make sure that was cut off at the pass and essentially make her a victim and not a co-defendant. And I think that's why that tape was eventually leaked by whatever party that leaked that tape. A lot of not going back to that. No one's really discussed how that tape has come out. I think it's an interesting thing, and especially when you have a judge that's interested in your story, and you have a prosecution that is interested in why he is making these these PR moves on social media. I think it all comes back to that tape, and I think that's their strongest, quote unquote, strongest piece of evidence in terms of their star witness to say, hey, this guy's a bad guy. I do like the fact, and I will agree with Brian, that the fact that they're having a conversation, that the judge is engaging them, is always a good sign. Is it, the end all be all that he's going to grant him bond? I don't know. I think this is a tough hill to take.
I think he will get bond, and the reason that he's going to get bond is because they have no real reason to keep him. He realized that the case is paper thin, dog. Okay, that's a good stance to take. I mean, if you truly believe that, I don't think that is the case, and the reason why I don't believe that's the case is there's actually no evidence to point either left or right on this situation, and I'm not understanding a lot of the scenarios that are at play here. I don't understand why some of the people who are making, oh yeah, please hit the like button, y'all. I know y'all been here the whole time. I probably told y'all earlier, but please hit the like button, subscribe to the page. That's very important. I know y'all been listening for a minute, but yes, hit the like button so they can know y'all real people here. Y'all not fake bots, all that stuff. So just hit the like button, please, so they can know that you guys are here for real. Now, here's the thing. The problems that exist here, and what he's trying to tell people, is that in this case, as you just heard, is that when you see this play out, yes, that's a lawyer. They're under the Justice Department. But see, that's what we were trying to tell you before. These people are not what you think they are. These people are basically manufacturing evidence to try to make someone victims. They're complaining that Sean Puffy Combs' family could be using social media, and they're not allowed to be basically defending their father and saying all the good quality things about him. But the government could allegedly be manipulating the media, letting these people put out all this slanderous stuff. And like he said, they found out so much of this stuff is fake, is garbage. Nobody's being charged from it. There's nothing. I mean, damn, you got people going around here talking about Natamori now. Now Natamori is a crime. He got food on a naked woman. Everybody, oh man, this is crazy. I'm like, they don't do any research. Natamori is a Japanese tradition. They do it at business meetings in Japan. Celebrities did it. Will Smith had a party. Kanye had a party. Everybody white didn't had a party. They have sushi models. They're trained. Some of them have the pillow behind their neck to rest their neck on the pillow. They're trained to lay there motionless. People don't communicate with the girl. They don't be like, hey, what's up, baby? They don't grab her boobs. They don't do anything like that. Normally they use the They use the chopsticks and grab the sushi off of the girl. She's like a plate. It's called natamori. It's not a crime at all. If I'm from New York, I'm not here defending if Diddy is if he's an abusive guy. He probably is. His charge ain't abuse. I'm going off what they're charging him with. And what they charging him with and what they doing is complete false and lying. The government is lying. They edited that Cassie tape because they wanted to show. The judge is like, why didn't you send me the full tape? Why did you send me an edited version of the tape? It was public. It was public. That's not the point. You have the full version of the tape. Why you're not showing me the full version of the tape? Because that doesn't fit their identity of what they want it to look like. They want it to look like she's a victim, right? That's why she's not on the report. Now, see, here's some other stupidity. They should charge him with Tupac's murder. For what? He has nothing to do with no damn Tupac murder or shooting in New York. So why would they be doing that? You see what I'm saying? This is the type of stuff we got to deal with. What Reek just said there. I can't do that. There's no way I could do that to another black man. I don't care if I didn't like that black man. If that black man didn't do it, I can't even accuse him of it. They do that to us all the time. And here we are as black men trying to throw another black man under the bus because we don't like him. What looks bad because he's apologizing, because a videotape comes out that affects his brand. So yes, he issues out an apology just like anybody else has. When something damaging comes out in the media, they put out an apology. You act like Diddy did something that nobody else do. He's apologizing for putting a foot in Cassie's ass on tape. Clearly, he's not apologizing for some of all this other stuff that they trying to say. Oh, he's apologizing for all of it, Your Honor. He never even said the girl's name on tape. Plus, if you did, he couldn't even be charged for that because it was past the statute of limitation because Cassie did not go to the cops. And if she did go to the cops, he would have it would have been called a misdemeanor, a domestic case, a misdemeanor case. He would have gotten a fine. He would have served no jail time. Misdemeanor assault case. He would have served no jail time. He would have paid a fine. And if he would have been like, okay, you got 6 months or a year, can't have any infractions. And this will probably go off your record. Are you kidding me? Well, yeah, the Attorney General Trump selected just got rejected because there's no way. He stepped down before he got rejected. He was going to get rejected. So, and rather than have that happen, he just stepped down. Getz is not going to be someone that, yeah, it's It's not going to be the case. Well, Trump was never going to put Gatz as attorney general. He owed Gatz a favor. So he gave everybody else roles. So he said, well, hell, I'm going to give Gatz this attorney general spot. He knew he going to get shut down. He's like, I just delegated it to somebody else so they can tell him no. Trump didn't want him to be an attorney general, trust me. Gatz got that 80s bully's face. You ain't lying. He looked weird as hell. Well, I guess that's why you know how somebody looks sick? Like if you saw him on a TV show, you already know he's the bad character. That's Gatz. He just looked just evil as hell. I'm like, damn, you look evil. I don't expect nothing good coming from you.
I think it's an uphill battle whenever you have an individual that's facing the type. Certainly, the bond package is pretty extensive in my opinion. A $50 million bond is nothing to sneeze about.
And to go into that, about one of the areas where I think Judge Subramanian seems to be receptive, he actually told prosecutors early this week, be prepared to talk about this. It's coming up right now. And Brian, I'll ask you about this. So this Ms. Shapiro, who's Sean Combs' lawyer, says, I submit the charges in the Jeffries Abercrombie case are worse than here. They allege an international sex trafficking business. They were raped and forced to engage, and I'm not going to say, but in a certain kind of sex acts. And by the way, that the argument here is, and this is what the Judge Subramanian said, is distinguished prosecution, why it is Sean Combs, after putting forward a bail package, as we said, $50 million, 24/7 private security firm, limited visitors, visitor logs, no internet use, no phone use. Why is he denied bond when you have Mike Jeffries, the former head of Abercrombie & Fitch, who was just arrested and charged with sex trafficking? Why is he out on $10 million bail? And by the way, the prosecution responded earlier and they had back and forth about this. He's 80 years old. Sean Combs is 55 years old. Sean Combs is charged with racketeering. He's not charged with racketeering. Sean Combs has alleged instances of prior violent behavior, not the instance with Mike Jeffries. But here you're seeing, Brian, where they're saying, we actually think the Jeffries case is worse. What do you make of that?
Well, it's brilliant. And I think that's the road they have to travel because it's precedent. You know, you're not supposed to have different rulings for like-minded cases. Disparity in treatment is always frowned upon in the federal courts. And here they have a significant public interest case where bail was set at $10 million by agreement. It wasn't debated over. The government agreed to it. Now we come over to Sean Puffy Combs' case, and they're objecting to 5 times that amount for someone who I don't believe has ever been convicted of a federal crime or a felony. I could be wrong about that. And they're putting restraints in place that make the previous bail package pale in comparison. So they're right to make this argument. It's precedent. It's precedent within that jurisdiction. And I think the judge is going to look hard at it. You know, you've now got 2 rulings that have gone against him. So he's got to look at those rulings and those judges. But he's also got a situation where the government has agreed to bail in a situation. If it's not as bad, it's pretty darn close by accusation.
Mm-hmm. And look, I think they could, look, it's also a different court. This is a different, this is the Southern District of New York. That was the Eastern District of New York. But even you put that difference aside, this seems to be one of the more compelling arguments put forward by the defense. Bradford, we're also taking questions, by the way. So anybody who has questions about this case, submit them on YouTube. If you have questions about the hearing, submit them. We have this interesting question from Sahara Useri on YouTube. Why did Combs get a new judge to begin with? It's interesting, right? Because I believe we had a district court judge or a magistrate judge, then a district court judge, now Judge Arun Subramanian. Why do you see a reassignment of a case like this? Why is it now in the hands of Judge Arun Subramanian? Why do you see this happen, Bradford?
Well, on federal cases, we always appear to begin with in front of a magistrate. That's usually the first person who hears the case, if it's a bond issue and or if it's even a preliminary issue. A lot of times, court judges will give magistrates the power to rule over different kind of motions to suppress and motions to dismiss. But we always go in front of a magistrate that's associated with the judge, and then generally you then go to the judge that's going to have your case. It just depends. Sometimes you go to a temporary judge until it gets assigned. A lot of times, judges don't have time for the type of case that it is, or they might not have the schedule that will behoove a trial in a certain period of time. I believe that this trial is being set for April, and it might be the other judge that was assigned already has a case that's set for April. That's not uncommon. I don't see that as like unusual. We've seen that in many cases. I've had many cases where judges have changed at the beginning of the case. It's usually unlikely that at the end of the case that you have a judge that'll change once they've heard motions and once you've done discovery and things of that nature. But I don't find anything of that unusual. Magistrates are always common. You always go in front of a magistrate first, and those are usually randomly assigned, and then a judge is randomly assigned, and then another judge can take over at any time. It's not that big of a deal.
And by the way, I wish we had cameras in the courtroom, but based purely on the arguments that we're seeing and have seen with Judge Subramanian, I feel confident to say this feels like a very fair, well-reasoned judge. The way he was pressing the prosecution, the way he's been pressing the defense, it's really something to take note of. And that's kind of the judge. That's exactly the kind of judge you want in these cases.
Yeah, he's actually just doing his job as a judge. The other judge wasn't. The other judge did whatever the government presented. He didn't even listen to the defense. No matter what the defense said, They didn't engage. They didn't do anything prior. This has become a major problem over and over again, and we don't know why these things are transpiring. Mm-hmm. Oh, granted, it's all there. Ashton Kutcher, all the things that he's done, all the crazy sex, he's in Scientology, something Diddy is not in. If Diddy is proven that he does not do these crimes, then yes, I have no problem saying he's innocent. If Diddy and the ex were still together, I bet you anything, these charges. Well, see, here's the thing. Cassie wanted the money. She got the money. The government won't Diddy. So this is why they're going down this road. The people behind the government that's pushing them to go put all this pressure on Diddy, go get him. Now, there's going to be a new AG in 2025. So we're going to see who that's going to be and how that's going to play out in such a massive trial. Well, when you look at it in totality, you're looking to see growth, right? You're looking to see why all of a sudden things just keep falling by the wayside. Why does it stop growing? Why does it stop, impeding? Why does it keep going into a place where, you know, it's just not the same? Yeah, well, that's the thing about law. You have a white kid get do the same crime in the same district, same state, and he gets a whole different leniency from the judge. Black people do the same crime, same state, and they doing as much time as possible. So yes, there needs to be a universal law as saying this is the time you're going to get, this is the punishment you're going to get, because unless there's certain circumstances, but other than that, that way everybody's not up there playing God and just slinging out time. The new AG will be Pam Bondi. Oh, they've already announced it. It's Pam Bondi. Okay, well, Diddy, you got Pam. Better call Pam Bondi. You better hope she likes your music, baby. Oh yeah, 100%.
There's a question that we have from Samian on YouTube. I'm curious, Jesse, why did the prosecutor not reference the R. Kelly trial? They might not have referenced it today, but it was in their filings. I think it was even in the very first bail filing. They referenced the R. Kelly case. They referenced the Jeffrey Epstein cases as why it would justify bail for Sean Combs. Here's another question. I'll throw this over to you, Brian, from Europes Hunar on YouTube. If Diddy gets out of bail, does that mean that he gets out immediately, like this hour?
It'll happen pretty quickly. You'll have to go back. Usually you have to go back to the detention center that you're being housed in. There's some paperwork that has to be done, but I would think it would happen pretty quickly. It would be tonight, unless there's some other snafu that occurs in trying to get it done. But for a high-profile case like this, they'll move quickly on it. All the eyes of the world are watching it. I think it'll happen pretty quickly. It'll certainly happen, I think, sometime tonight, if he rules tonight. I mean, that's, some judges recognizing that there could be an appeal of this ruling will take the time to issue a written opinion. And that would be the only reason I would think this judge would hesitate before ruling in this case. He seems, as you've described it, to be a really fair-minded and thoughtful guy. That is his reputation. And some of those judges that are more thoughtful and more fair-minded issue written opinions, which he may do in this case.
We have another update from court. Ms. Shapiro, again, defense counsel for Sean Combs. While in Jeffrey's case, one defendant is 80 and the other is 71, Mr. Combs is 55. I hate to say it. It's not that young, because that was one of the things the prosecution said. Like, you're dealing with an 80-year-old. Yeah, you're dealing with an 80-year-old. You're dealing with an 80-year-old. He's 55. He's much younger. He's more of a danger. The judge says the U.S. suggests he won't follow conditions. Shapiro says these conditions are more restrictive than in the prison. Again, I kind of laid out what some of the conditions are. Bradford, your thoughts?
I think the argument that one guy's 80 and one guy's 55 is, if I was a judge, I think that would fall on deaf ears. The 80-year-old might be more willing to do something crazy because he's 80. It's like he only has so much time left. Anytime you give an 80-year-old is going to be a life sentence. So if the guy gets 5 years and he's 85 years old, that's not that young. So the argument itself is not great about the age. I think the stronger argument is maybe that in the RICO charges, they're charging some sort of violent behavior. That's probably a stronger argument because the Abercrombie and Fitch CEO doesn't have a history of alleged violence or participation in violence. But the allegations of the sex trafficking are very, very, in my opinion, are worse for the CEO of Abercrombie and Fitch. And it's just, it's funny that it just by happenstance, these cases happen together. If it didn't happen together, you'd have nothing to compare it to. You'd have to go back to a different sex trafficking case that someone didn't get bond. So it just so happened that this worked out for Sean Combs, where the Eastern District comes to an agreement on the CEO of Abercrombie and Fitch, and it works in his favor. I think that you have to lean very heavily on this guy. Could have made a run for it at any time, right? It's not just that he's a danger. It's also that he's a flight risk. They were arguing. He could have made a run for it at any time. He has jets. He could have gone to Mexico. He could have gone anywhere. And he never did. He surrendered when he was supposed to surrender. In fact, they didn't even allow him to surrender. They picked him up at night at a hotel when they knew that they could have called him and he would have just surrendered in the morning. I think that it goes to show a lot of bias, obviously, on behalf of the U.S. Attorney's Office. And I think a judge like this judge, who used to be a clerk for really, really good judges and was in the commercial business world and kind of looks at things that way and looks at objectivity that way, I think was a real good thing for Sean Combs here, because a lot of other judges that have been kind of jaded by the criminal system might not give him as fair of a shake as this judge is. And this judge is fair.
And that's true. He wouldn't have gotten a fair shake like that. They knew Diddy would have turned himself in. They communicated with them. They were in full communication. Everybody else, any other high-profile celebrity, would have been allowed to walk in there into jail and be arrested with their legal team and do their proceedings. Same thing they did with Mr. Jeffries. But Diddy, he had to go get basically just bamboozled. He's coming back in from dinner. They come raid his room, talking about they found drugs. It's crazy. This is what they want. They want confusion, panic, distrust, the whole nine. And we sitting here rooting for the other people. Talking about Diddy's a monster. I'm like, man, I am not finna let these fools lie to me and try to tell me something. Donald Trump did way worse. They loved him. All these white guys have done way worse. They ain't said nothing about them. They deal with kids' gloves with them. The government cut a deal with this man, Mr. Jeffries. They negotiated that before he even walked in there. He had bail already prepared. You didn't see no perp walking him. You see him walking to his car to go home. By the time you found out about his arrest, he was at home. Freaking scissor, no. I don't think they're dating. We will do a Kendrick Lamar video when we get back. Mm-hmm. Well, the internet's gonna go crazy on this album. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, we'll get into it. I just want to go back and still listen to, all the songs again. I'm in the car, it's a bop. I still ain't heard it in the car yet. Oh, it's so West Coast. Everything on here is West Coast crazy. Mm-hmm. So everybody been wanting the new Kendrick album, and it's out. Oh yeah, TV Off is a banger, boy. I mean, shoot, the TV Off was a massive hit. Yeah, see, West Coast call it a bop. So it's a bop. This whole album is like that. It's got a lot of bop songs, a lot of songs that are vibe. It's a vibe, and that's what I pretty much like. Is that He's beating Drake with success. He made sure, you could see he muted some vocals that might have been alluding to Drake and anything like that. Drake is so happy Kendrick dropped his album, he don't know what to do. Now he's free to drop. He's free to drop that album he gonna drop. People are upset Not Like Us wasn't on the album. Why he ain't got Not Like Us out there? He don't need to. Not Like Us is his own monster. It could just sit out there. Because it done shredded. It done did what a whole album it did. Watch this clown holding the trophy though. Like he this clown is holding a trophy. I mean the NBA trophy like he was hooping. Dog, you were not out there on the court, dog. You didn't make one move that helped the team acquire anybody on the team. You're not in the front office. You're the mascot, dog. So anyway, I'm going to dip. I'm going to holler at y'all later. Now, remember, we're doing a small video on YouTube, and then we're going to do a Patreon version.